And so his book is out. It's a treasure trove of effectively how to interpret dreams and how to grow in it, how to just develop that whole area of language that heaven speaks to us on a frequent and regular basis. And despite all my background and everything else, what I found is nuggets through this whole book that I've gone like, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, that's interesting. Packed with great stories and really good illustrations in it. My incredibly talented graphic designer, Esther, who I give all credit to the cover for, we searched for days online to find the right one about what is the true perspective of dreams and visions, and if you had that dream, how would you interpret it? So that's the book. It is, let me see if this works. Yay, it is available. Yeah, it is available on Amazon UK. Just to point out, if you go to Amazon UK to look for it, the Great British Bookshop comes up as the cheapest. Without doing them a disservice, let me just point out they do not have stock. We found out how they're listing it and we've corrected it now. But if you see it at $9.99, it's not available. They just don't have them. In only true prophetic launch style could Amazon US actually have their site go down and you not be able to see the details or put it in your shopping cart right now. We tested it out about 10 minutes ago and it's still down. But those are the links that you need. If I'd have known somebody was on from Australia, I would have put Australia in there as well. But the ebook will be active over the weekend in Indian rupees, the Brazil currency, in Australian dollars, Canadian dollars, US dollars, every euro currency you can think of, Japanese yen. We're trying to cover the whole prophetic world and get this out. So that's those are the links you need to take care of. Now, one warning. Sharon Slatter from America happens to have bought quite a few of them. So we're down to 25 copies left in the US and 20 copies in my office here in the UK. Someone called Kath snuck in about an hour ago from somewhere on Merseyside and took one. Oh, hi, that's you waving with the blue sweater on. Thank you. Yours is in the post tomorrow to you. Well done for reserving one. My US office in Texas is on standby for a crazy weekend because we expect to sell out. Now, all of that to say, on the next slide, I'll give you my email address. If we run out, which we're bound to with nearly 200 people on the call, if you email me, our UK and US office will reserve copies for you when the new stock comes from the printers, and we'll save them when they're live back on Amazon. We will tell you. You can go onto Amazon and order, and then we will have already held your copy for you. It's just a service we're trying to do it. But as whoever it was hosting this, sorry, I missed your name, said, if you're up in the Northeast, Mark's got about, well, he had 500. He's probably only got 400 left now. Let me give this shout out too, because she has a great last name, even though we're probably relatives about 300 years ago. But a shout out for Julia Powell, because her artwork is all the way through this. If you could see me on the camera and not on the slides, we've got her artwork in it all the way through the book, which is great too. So what about us? If I'm racing through this, I'm on a time frame and the clock's counting down. So we've been publishing right the way back since 1988. We've got about 400 books in print. We specialize in the prophetic, healing and deliverance, the whole Father, Heart, Grace, forgiveness message. And we do a lot of books on Israel. We have never advertised for an author. Like with Mark, everything comes through word of mouth. We're unbelievably relational. We even talk to people in bread queues on a Saturday. We've got offices in the US, USA, and South Africa. But the focus for us this year, we really feel that we should be in the US and in Australia. So they're really focus areas for us. We do books that aren't in English. We do them. So you'll see on the next slide. Sadly we haven't done any in Swedish yet, but we've done them in Dutch and Spanish and French and Australian, language all of its own. America, yeah, we've done quite a lot out there. As I say, we do customized solutions. So like with Mark's, where we're able to put artwork in, we've had authors who've got designers in their family and we work with their covers to support them. We publish and do print services for other ministries and other publishers. We ship stuff all over the world for different people. So I pulled out a few names that people might know. Bob Johnson, that's one of the best little books on in evangelism to the poorest of the poor. He's Bill Johnson at Bethel's brother. Danny Silk, we did his love, Keep Your Love On in Dutch. Sorry, had to translate it. Israel, Steve Hebden's known all over the world for healing. And I can't believe I've done all that lot in 8 minutes 45. So let me go back up a slide. So if you do run out of stock and you want to reserve copies, particularly if you're overseas, honestly, Australia's easy, South Africa's easy, America, Canada is easy, Europe is easy. When you get into India, and some of the other countries, the islands and that, we would struggle other than by airmail, and it's really expensive. And if you can, I'd encourage you to go to ebooks and get those, simply because the whole income off the ebooks goes to Mark. We don't take anything as the publisher. We give the author everything off ebooks. So it's a way of funding him and his ministry as well. 9 minutes 38, under 10 minutes. Pat on the head, and I will stop sharing my screen.
But that I have now lost count of the number of people who do not know Jesus, who actually are now coming up to me and within 5 minutes of conversation are telling me their dreams unsolicited. And that why is because actually what I've done is created the space by having a book. And so by creating the shape, what you do is it attracts that which people need to find the answers for, because obviously the answer is always Jesus, but Jesus in the book is actually will be attracting them to me, because obviously Jesus and me, but because I've written the book on dream interpretation. So then I can just say, believe it or not, I've just written a book on dream interpretation. And they say, you are kidding me. You know, this has happened throughout the last 2 weeks since the book has actually arrived in my house. It's even happened with companies that I've been working with professionally. So within the short time that I have, I would like to, and for those that have got the book, and well done, Sharon, for David Powell was totally impressed as how your detective skills led you to find the book on American Amazon. He was absolutely surprised. He said, I can't believe, he said, it's only just appeared and someone has ordered 4 copies or whatever, 4 copies have gone. So Sharon, you know, you have the award you know, I mean, if there was an American Sherlock Holmes award, I'm sure you would have it for solving the mystery on how to get it, even before the publisher told me it had actually appeared. So you know, I mean, that's got to be a gift, doesn't it? So well done, Sharon. But actually, a lot of the book is about creating what God is doing in terms of changing our shape, and a lot of 2020 has been about, you know, as we've been pressing into Jesus, because effectively, you know, the world, everybody's been pressed, all right? And the fact is that, you know, the world who don't know Jesus don't know who to hang on to. We've pressed into Jesus. And by doing that, as you press into him, cling onto him, listen to the love songs that he has for you, then what happens is the fact that in that place of intimacy, we begin to change. All right, so we're always taught, you know, the thing that we may have been talking about in 2020 is, what is my calling? What is my destiny? What is my purpose? All right, and actually, I know, and some, for some, 2020 has been very much a gift, a time where you can recalibrate and reshape and everything else. And for others, it's been difficult. But even during difficulties, there's been a reshaping. So our calling, destiny, and purpose, Psalm 139, verse 16. All right, is God knows our calling, destiny, and purpose, and they're written in our books. All right, those books have been fashioned in the symphony of love in heaven. As we let that symphony of love resound over us, Zephaniah 3:17, yeah, night and day, the fact that the love songs of heaven, as we welcome them into our heart, will change the shape of our heart, unravel us, will change the very substance of our spiritual DNA, because actually in Psalm 139, verse 16, it talks about our substance, which is actually our spiritual DNA. That becomes unraveled. Remember that song, "You Unravel Me" with a melody? Yeah. Well, actually, that love unravels us, unravels our spiritual DNA. That allows God to say, "Hey, Mark, this is a little bit funny. This is a little bit, can we take that out? Can we repair this? Can we restore that?" And then we put you back together again. And then what your DNA makes is you being the right shape. I'm a scientist, I'm a professor, you know, international reputation in science. This actually mirrors what happens with our natural DNA when it gets mutated. It unravels, it gets repaired, put back together again, then it makes enzymes and things like that, which actually help us to function, right? Those enzymes, to function properly, even operating Zoom now, you know, hearing, seeing, you know, etc., moving, sitting down, requires an enzyme. So if that's an enzyme, to fit the shape of a substrate for it to happen, all right? Even for you to nod your head, you'll have probably had about 1,000 of these interactions. It's called a lock and key hypothesis, how things match, bind together. Now, disease happens, right? This is the end of the science lesson. It's going to last 15 seconds, so bear with me. Simplistically, a lot of disease happens when the enzyme has a few changes in the DNA or mutations, and it changes its shape, all right? So that's now changed its shape. Now the substrate hasn't changed its shape, and actually it now can't fit. It can't fit so well. So therefore, the body processes don't work so well, and, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. How much is that true with our spiritual DNA? So, you know, we actually find ourselves in the right situation, the substrate, but we're not the right shape. And it kind of feels a little bit awkward. It kind of feels like walking uphill with a bag of cement on our back. All right. The solution to that is to say, well, God, you know, I've got a few little things poking out here. It's not working. And God said, great, Mark, let me just, you know, restore you, reshape you so you fit now into the substrate. In other words, when Paul in 2 Corinthians talks about the field or sphere of influence, remember he talks about that, you know, about the field that God gave him. That is your sphere of influence that God wants you to walk into, to fit into, so you can actually manifest the authority of God as a son and daughter that you already have through the work of Jesus. You don't have to work to get authority. It's already there. There's a problem in manifesting that authority in terms of actually working in someone else's field. actually when we should be running with our own destiny, calling and purpose, and manifest the authority that we have and have dominion in that place. When you have dominion in a place, you fight fewer spiritual battles. A friend of ours, Paul Fennick, often says, when you're in the right field, you're fighting the right battles, and you manifest the authority that you have, and you have dominion, you actually have fewer demonic battles, because actually the demons know you're in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing. So what is the point giving you any hassle? They may as well hop it before they get a bashing. All right. So honestly, hey, thank you, Naomi. Whoa. Anyway, back to the thing, because I've got to press on. Right. So right shape, which will fit the sphere of influence that God has given us. What we need to recognize when that happens is that we get in shape. All right. So imagine going to the gym. You're in shape now. Thank you, Jesus, for your love that's got me into shape. Now, the big challenge is you got to keep in shape. All right. We all know what it's like. We're in shape. The challenge now is to keep in shape. And there will be shape distorters out there that will try and get you to be distorted so you don't fit that field, that sphere of influence anymore. You go back to the old shape. And they can be false loyalties and things like that. So things that will drag you back, so drag you backwards. Things that will actually say, well, no, we should do it now. We should do it now. When you fully well know that you have to wait 6 months or 3 months for the right timing, so it becomes premature. You're doing the right thing at the wrong time. That will stretch you forward. And then you get the self-projection thing where people around you who are still living the old want to project the old onto you because you are then more comfortable to them, because they can't stand you talking about all this new stuff and walking in your calling, destiny, and purpose, because it's making them feel difficult. And they're saying, stop talking like that. I'm actually much more comfortable when you were living the old way. And they'll try and self-project onto you to make it feel easier for them. So there'll be three things that will almost threaten to distort the shape that God has made you. So it's one of the questions about shape distorters. And so as you walk in the field or sphere of influence that God has given you, because you are now, as it were, think of yourself as a musical instrument that has been reshaped. And as you allow the breath of God to blow through you, you become that shofar of freedom as you benedict or speak well over the land. And actually the sound of heaven that you are now making over the land will resonate with the sound of the land in the sphere of influence that God has given you. And then you will walk in the reality of Romans 8, where it says the land is groaning, waiting for sons and daughters to take their place. And as you take your place, making the sound of heaven, of your calling, destiny, and purpose, because you've allowed Jesus and the love of Jesus to fashion you, you've become this amazing God's poem of love, resounding over the land, his shofar of freedom, and actually the land will yield its fruit. And actually you will see salvations. There'll be changes in political structure, education, things like that. There'll be success in the sphere of influence that God has given you, because you are now that son and daughter that the land has been waiting for. And you're making the sound of heaven, that it says, I know this sound. This sound actually was in heaven. I recognize this. So there's a big thing in that as you benedict or speak well over the land. That is in 17 points. All right. This in the how to interpret a dream. There's a lot in there, and how to interpret a dream. What I've just described to you is actually the revelation is given part of dream interpretation, because skill is acquired, and half the book is about the skill is acquired. The rest of it is revelation is given. If you could interpret a dream just by a checklist, then we would not have no need of Jesus in our life to do that. And we know that's not true. So we need the revelation is given, the relationship with Jesus, to know about those dream interpretations, because we read that the interpretations belong to God. So I'm just going to repeat those 5 points again. So we have a heavenly blueprint, which will become a physical reality. That's Psalm 139, verse 16. God's love symphony unravels us to get in shape, Zephaniah 3:17. We abide in his love song will help us to keep in shape. All right, so once you've got in shape, keep in shape. That allows us to fit, remember, fit that field or sphere of influence that we read about in 2 Corinthians 10, verse 13. And that means that we are then walking in that sphere of influence. As we walk in that sphere, what do? We benedict. We speak well to change the atmosphere, to change the land, to change the nation, and see our blueprint of calling, destiny, and purpose in Psalm 139, verse 16, become a physical reality on the land at which you are now walking. So that's how, because dreams will connect us between here and our, as it were, our heavenly blueprint in heaven. So that's how one dream or one yielding and yes to God can change a nation as you and I are reshaped. That's it. You know, say yes to God, say yes to his love. I'm preaching to myself now. Yes to Jesus, yes to God, yes to his love. See your nation, see your city transformed. So it's all about the shape. It's all about shape, fitting into that sphere of influence and allow God to mold us into that shape. And what we're going to do in the breakout rooms is to answer some questions which will help us to actually confirm the reality of probably what most of us are doing, but don't realize it. And once we realize we're doing it, we can do it more. So that makes sense. So it's a real activation tonight. So I'm going to hand you back to Natasha, who will probably hand you to Claire. And that's, so thank you. And as I say, here's the book, there it is. David's done a good job. I've got 500 copies. I sent down a box of 25 to River Church yesterday because they wanted 25. It's easy for them just to send a big box. David's told you where to buy it. If you're in the region, buy it from me. If you want to buy a box for 25, there's loads in my son's bedroom right now. So, and I'll sign them and everything else. Over to you, Natasha. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mark. I think all of us can attest to the fact that that's an incredible principle, and it's something, having known Mark for quite a long time, it's something that you can really see that Mark lives out. That there's a lot of favor around Mark's life, and just good things seem to happen to him. He seems to be in the right place at the right time. And I think what's amazing about what he's just shared and what he's written about, I mean, I think there's a lot in what he's just said, so it's definitely worth getting the book and reading about it because it goes into a lot more detail. But what he's talking about actually is the principles that we can all live out to learn to walk more in the favor of God. So what I've put together is a few questions just to get us thinking with Jesus about the principles that Mark shared and how they apply to our life. So I've put them in the chat bar, and you're, in a minute, like Mark said, you'll go into breakout rooms. And if you haven't been to Soul before, we have an amazing Soul team. I think there's 40 of them on tonight. So they're incredible, and they're all brilliant prophetic voices. And they will just remind you of these questions and kind of introduce themselves. But the first question to ask with Jesus is, what does this principle of being the right shape to fit the field look like in your life at the moment? Or how is that kind of manifested in your life up to this point? So Mark gave a couple of examples that, at the moment that he got the book, the moment that he published the book and it came into his hands, God provided lots and lots of people to come to him and ask him about dreams. Mark didn't set that up, God set that up because Mark he was ready, he had a book to tell them about dreams. For me, one of the things that I think about is actually the God has brought amazing people into my life when I've been ready for those different people to receive from them and to learn from them. So Mark and Juliet would be some of those people. But I know that that's been, a God timing, and it's been the hunger on the inside of me that has drawn those people to me. So it might be worth just, asking Jesus, well, how has that looked in my life? So, and it could be, what doors have opened to me when I've been ready for them? What opportunities and blessings have come my way without me having to try? They've just come my way. What people has God put in my life? What things have I hungered for that God has provided almost just in response to my hunger? So that's question number one. Question number two is about those shape distorters that Mark talked about. So what, if anything, is trying to get you out of shape or alignment right now? So is there anything, or and it can be that people are doing this without realizing most of the time, but is there anything or anyone who's trying to pull you back or pull you into a timing that's too quick, or where there's manipulation or control, that type of thing? And actually, what is God asking you to do about that? What's the wisdom that God has for you to manage that? And the last question is, what one thing are you going to do or as a result of that reflection? So that could be meditate on a Bible verse that God speaks to you every day for the next week, or it could be spend some time soaking next week, like Mark said he did at work. So there could be different things that God's asking you to do. But those are the questions you're going to ask. As I said, they're in the chat bar and your host will go over them with you. You'll have some time just to soak privately and to ask God those questions. And then the amazing thing, I think, about being part of such a huge group of people is that you get to meet people and share your process with them. So you'll have an opportunity after you've done that just to share what God's spoken to you. And there's no pressure to share if you don't want to, but I would encourage you to share what you feel comfortable sharing, because it's a huge. I know last month we did something similar, and lots of people shared how actually they were so encouraged by hearing what God had said to other people, and it really challenged them, because just to hear the ways that God was speaking to different people. So that is that. We're going to give you, I think we'll probably go into breakout rooms just before past, and we'll give you up to 50 minutes. So you'll have a good amount of time. We'll bring you back at 20 past. But before we do that, I think Claire, we did something similar last month, and Claire had a really great reflection that we wanted to share before you go off into breakout rooms. So I don't know if Claire is around.
Yes, thanks, Natasha. Can you hear me okay? Yes. This is one of my most favorite parts of Speakers of Life, that we get to go into our Zoom rooms and meet just incredible people from across the world. I'm so excited about who God is going to put each of us with, and he's handpicked that. But I just wanted to encourage us all, like if you were here last month, the opportunity just in our conversation to hear God. I love the name of this gathering, Speakers of Life. And as we're reminded tonight with Mark's book, there are so many ways that God is speaking to us all the time, whether that's dreams or whether that's just in the prophetic words that we receive on here. But one of my favorite ways, and maybe it's your way too, is just through conversation, just in the people God puts in our Zoom room. Because as all of us come here hungry and our hearts are postured to hear him, and we know that Jesus said every one of us hear his voice because we're his sheep, just as we go into these breakout rooms, or just as we're on here, the conversations that we have, God can be speaking just in that. So this is a great opportunity as we go into this discussion time, just to be leaning in and listening even through the conversation. Some of my favorite prophetic words and promises have come through the attraction that happens as we speak to other believers, just in a very natural conversation. And we weren't even like trying to have a prophetic task, or we weren't trying to even get a word, but just because we're together. So I'm really excited tonight of how God is going to just speak through our conversations in our breakout rooms.
Yeah, thank you so much, Claire. So I think Tim, our amazing Zoom maestro, who's been very busy behind the scenes, is going to send you all into breakout rooms now.